not so much a Democrat. And that's not a slam on you, because elections have consequences. And to my good friend, Senator Whitehouse, I want to reform the system. It needs to be reformed. But nobody had to spend 15 cents to tell me that you're qualified. I figured that out on my own. I followed your career from afar. And this is the first time I've really had a chance to interact with you. And all I can say is that I've seen a lot of people come and go. We've had some of the most talented people in this country sit where you're sitting. And you've acquitted yourself well. You have much to be proud of. Your children have much to be proud of in their mother. Your husband has much to be proud of in his wife. You have much to be proud of in terms of how you served your country thus far. And with Amy Barrett, the best is yet to come. So, in another time, in another place, you would get everybody's vote. It's not about you. It's about us. Somehow we have lost our way. There's no use blaming one side versus the other. It always seems to be that our people get treated pretty harshly. I voted for Sotomayor and Kagan because I saw in them the qualities that a Democratic president would be looking for, and the character, the integrity that the public would appreciate and would be fitting of the job. Elections do have consequences. This vacancy came about through a tragic demise of one of the greatest women of any time. She did things that no other woman was able to do, and through her actions paved the way for women to achieve their goals. She has a different philosophy than you do judicially. That is okay. I hope it's okay that you can be pro-life and adhere to your faith and still be considered by your fellow citizens worthy of this job. I think you have met every test that any reasonable person could impose in terms of qualifications. I think you made every test in terms of disposition and character that the public could hope for in terms of having somebody sit at the table at the Supreme Court. You will be confirmed, God willing. You will have my full
their lives by providing them with
masking, and investigators found
care supplement.
60s though,
Then with a 4-H kit.
Oh, you.
Go in closed session. The FBI evaluation will be presented to the committee. That's standard practice for every nominee. We will meet again here just in, where's the room? Dirksen G50. You will be with us. We do this for every nominee going back to Chairman Biden. And it is over. The hearing part is over. You can have 2 glasses of wine tonight if you want.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll defer to Senator Durbin if he wants to go first.
Yes, I would just like to finish my thought, then we'll defer to Senator Durbin. The hearing part is over. You acquitted yourself well, but the journey you're about to take is going to be challenging, it's going to be rewarding, and may God bless you in this endeavor. Senator Durbin.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Democratic side, I won't speak for Senator Blumenthal. He can certainly add his own comments. Thank you for your fairness in this hearing. I heard no objection, nor will I, about the way you've conducted this. You've given everyone a chance to express themselves. You've been a little flexible on the time, and I thank you for that. It is a hallmark of what you've brought to this committee, and I hope it continues through the remainder of this negotiation and deliberation. To Judge Barrett, thank you for being here. This is an ordeal, and I've seen it from this side many, many times. And I want to thank your husband and your family for joining you in this effort. I'm sure they'll take away many memories, and some will be good, of this experience, which you can talk about for years to come. I do want to say one thing that was mentioned yesterday that always strikes me, and that is the impact of this experience on your children. I heard you or someone say that it was painful, there were painful moments for some of the kids. I'm sorry. I hope that I was not the cause and we were not the cause, but I'll just tell you, they are innocent victims and they should not have to go through this, but each of us in public life can tell you back a story or two as well of our own family experiences. We put our names on the ballot, we're the targets, and when they go after my family, it just infuriates me, just drives me crazy. It happens, and sadly it happens too often. But thank you for being here.
Thank you for your kindness, Senator Durbin.
Senator Blumenthal?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I want to join in Senator Durbin's remarks, thanking you for being here. I also have additional remarks. I'm assuming, Mr. Chairman, that at the beginning of the session tomorrow we'll be permitted opening statements. And rather than taking time now,
Yes.
I will have comments on the process and on comments that have been made by others, President Trump, by some of our colleagues here today, and over the course of recent days. But I do thank you, Mr. Chairman, in giving us that opportunity first thing tomorrow before the markup begins.
So, thank you very much. We're going to meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We'll have an executive business meeting. We're going to hold the nomination over consistent with the practice of the committee, and we'll talk among ourselves tomorrow and give everybody a chance to express themselves. We've got a panel, 4 and 4, 4 for, 4 against. We'll hear from them. We'll hear from the ABA, and we'll meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we will gavel this part of the process to conclusion. We'll meet in Dirksen G50. God bless you. Judge Barrett, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. I plan on it.
And that we're going to get through this, but I think the damage has already been done in terms of how he has abused his authorities, and I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to recover quickly from the damage he has wrought.
Director John Brennan, the former director of the CIA, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for your service to the U.S. intelligence community over many, many years. And I just want to note your new book. Once again, I'll put it up on the screen, Undaunted, My Fight Against America's Enemies at Home and Abroad. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Will.
Coming up, can President Trump recreate his 2016 success in Pennsylvania, a key battleground state? We're going to take a closer look at how his supporters are trying to win over new voters when we come back.
Relief during this pandemic. The application for Paycheck Protection Program loans has been simplified. This streamlines the forgiveness process to provide financial and administrative relief to the smallest businesses while also ensuring sound stewardship of taxpayer dollars. Joining us today to talk about the changes is Jamie Wood, South Dakota's District Director for the U.S. SBA. As always, Jamie, thank you for joining us. So these new developments with the PPP, could you explain to us what are the immediate things that you are noticing and what are the things that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. We have a very important update. It just came out late last week. And this has to do with the Paycheck Protection Program. And for PPP borrowers who received loans for $50,000 or less, this is all about you. In South Dakota, that means about 77% of the business owners, just over 18,000 of the small businesses that got PPP actually are impacted by this. So the forgiveness process is a little bit easier for you now. What's going to happen, there's a brand new application form that's designed for PPP recipients, so $50,000 or less loans. It's a little bit less cumbersome. You don't have to include as much information on the application, so that's good news for these borrowers. And also it opens it up where the forgiveness is actually a little bit broader now for these businesses, so you're eligible for more business. And the reason why, and we're getting this question quite a bit actually, is because when Congress and the SBA and Treasury took a look at the businesses that got 50,000 or less, really those were businesses that were your sole proprietors, small businesses who had less than a handful of employees perhaps, and just really had very few employees. And so it was kind of hard for them to actually get into that realm where they were going to get total forgiveness on their loans. And so this is why SBA and the Treasury have made a move of this, like this. So that's good news. And then also it's going to be a little bit easier now for the lenders to be able to process these types of loans as well. There is a portal that's open that's specific to these types of forgiveness applications for $50,000 or less. So that's really great news too. So we're pretty happy about the forgiveness process. Does need to continue. So we're really urging small businesses, if you've gone through your PPP funds, and this is for folks who had the 8 weeks to use it, and then also when they augmented it later in the summer during COVID-19 response, where you could have 24 weeks to use your funds. Many people are climbing up now even on the end of that 24 weeks. And so it's time to comply and get this forgiveness paperwork in. So we're really working with small businesses to make sure that they're in compliance.
Well, Jamie, I think you might have read my mind because you probably asked about every question that I had ready for you there. Actually, that kind of works out well because we are actually running out of time as well too. So Jamie, thank you for the update as well. We appreciate getting to have you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
And we will have another check of the forecast, which apparently things are actually going to get very fall-like pretty soon. Tyler's back in just a moment.
Eric, Vanessa, and Aaron, weekday mornings on Dakota News Now.
Slaughtered innocents. That's what Joe Biden's weak leadership left us. Under President Trump, America is winning again. President Trump crushed ISIS, eliminated the world's deadliest terrorists, fixed the VA, and is bringing our troops home. Real leadership, real results.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of my...
No problem. And done. So you can...
Now, Trump supporters show up daily for swag and yard signs and help registering to vote.
We need Trump in there again. I'm 65. I think it's time to register.
Have you not voted ever?
No.
Rural Westmoreland County's seen a surge in Republican registrations. They help with that here too.
Change my registration from Democrat to Republican.
Why?
From what I've seen in the past couple years, I'm ashamed to say I was a Democrat.
It's a great honor to have you here in Latrobe. But Joe Biden isn't giving up here. Campaigning in Westmoreland County this month, Hillary Clinton didn't come here in the general election.
It's not an area Democrats come and campaign very often, but you're here. Why?
I'm here because, like I said, we are not taking any vote for granted.
They've seen the past 4 years with the president.
Gina Cirilli is county commissioner in Westmoreland, PA. 10 years ago, she was Miss Pennsylvania in Donald Trump's Miss USA pageant. Now she's an elected Democrat working to blunt Trump's advantage here.
In 2016, Donald Trump was a fresh face. He was new to politics. Everyone was excited. He made big promises, bring back jobs. But frankly, Donald Trump broke those promises.
In small-town Pennsylvania, signs matter. Trumps are everywhere, big and bold. But Biden's are out there too.
When you see signs like this, it makes the Republicans and the Democrats that voted for Trump in 2016 realize I'm not alone.
A big Biden challenge, his supporters are being COVID careful.
Never did we think we would be meeting by Zoom.
Phyllis Friend, head of Democratic Women of Westmoreland County, organizes from home. She's clear-eyed about the Democrats' goal here in Trump country.
We can't win Pennsylvania for them, but we can add to the total numbers.
Hey, David, this is Joe. I'm a volunteer for the Trump campaign. How you doing?
As for Republicans, they never stopped traditional ways of getting out the vote. Knocking on doors, walking in neighborhoods in masks, and using a GOP data-driven app to find and persuade voters.
Depending on who that voter is, we're able to tailor
Your reward. So remember when...
Actually be an understatement. In all his years running for political office in Manchester, Tennessee, he never lost a single race. After a 40-year career with the Arnold Engineer Development Complex, where he started as a custodian and retired a technician supervisor, Lonnie Norman rose to become Manchester's first black mayor. They re-elected him 4 times, something his family called an act of trust for which he was immensely grateful. Mayor Norman loved his constituents and he worked for them too. He fought against hospital closures, he got funding for a new recreation complex, and he helped facilitate the annual Bonnaroo Music Festival when Manchester, a town of just 10,000, welcomed 80,000 guests for 4 days. An impressive resume, to be sure, but as his family points out, his greatest accomplishments were as a father and a grandfather. Mayor Lonnie Norman died Monday morning of COVID at the age of 79, but in his memory we'll hold on to his favorite quote, something of a life motto, that it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. We will be right back.
With Oscar Mayer. Right there, that's Jeff. He's a bull in New Zealand, and he just likes to get his head scratched every now and then.
This is your one more thing?
Yeah.
There you go, and Jay.
You guys don't like the Jeff the Bull? What is your problem, Dana?
No.
Why don't you like Jeff the Bull?
I don't know. I mean, I just thought there would be a little more action.
You're disgusting. I don't know what you mean by action.
Well.
You know what? We should have a talk with HR after this.
And we'll call him after this. Juan.
Okay, so life is full of surprises, and that's especially true when the doorbell rings in the middle of the night. So take a look at this Monday night footage from a doorbell camera in California.
Paul? It's Bob Wilson. You won the Nobel. You won the Nobel Prize.
Yes, that really happened, folks. Stanford professor Robert Wilson rang Paul Milgram's doorbell at 2 a.m. to tell him he won the Nobel Prize for economics. Wilson and Milgram are both Stanford professors. They won the prize as a team. They live across the street from each other. The prestigious award comes with a $1 million cash prize and a gold medal. Now, you won't be surprised to learn that Milgram's phone was unplugged because he was getting too many campaign phone calls with the election just days away. So congratulations to them. And by the way, the USA is winning a lot of Nobel Prizes.
As is the
Go
Pac-12,
USA.
and he's a Stanford guy. And an astrophysicist as well. I know the Stanford guys are happy. All right, I'm going to tell you about this guy. This Utah man got a little more than he bargained for. He thought he was going out on a normal hike, but things got a little bit more intense. Watch this.
Go away. No. No. You, dude.
So that is Kyle Burgess. He was in the middle of a 2-mile run on the Slate Canyon Trail near Provo on Saturday evening, and he crossed paths with some wild kittens. So he started filming them on his phone, and then the mama, she was not happy. He realized they were mountain lion cubs. But look at the foliage. And a moment later, it came out, protective mother emerged, and she was not having it. Thankfully,
the foliage.
Yeah, the foliage is great. He got a big rock, he threw it towards her, she ran away. Everybody's fine, but I mean, that was pretty.
That wasn't a bull.
I heard it was like 6 minutes.
Yeah, 6 minutes. He was stalked by that. All right, Jesse.
Speaking of foliage.
Foliage.
Yeah, right, that's not how you pronounce that. Hey, don't do that.
Wow.
Hey, don't do this. All right, so it's leaf season. Greg knows. He lives upstairs.
Oh, no, you didn't do this.
What do you do with the pile of leaves after you've raked them up? Hey, don't do this.
Jesse, I can't believe you're doing this story.
Oh!
Oh, my goodness.
You gotta rake them and bag them. You don't want to light them on fire like that.
Yeah, kids, don't try this at home.
Wait a second. Aren't you having a boy? You're having a boy child? I think that was Jesse Jr. right there.
We're gonna hire some landscapers.
All right, Kennedy. Well, we all have been waiting for the UPS man during the lockdown, especially kids who are home from school.
Me too.
So you get to know that person pretty well. Check out this UPS driver in Boston who got a big surprise from a family he visits almost every day. The entire family, 7 kids, and a bulldog dressed up in UPS garb so they can show their appreciation to their favorite driver. They are down with Brown. Indeed, they are. All right. Great show, everybody. That's it for us. Special report is up next. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Dana, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Breaking tonight, we are following two major stories. There are serious questions for Joe Biden this evening following the publication of emails allegedly belonging to his son Hunter that contradict or seem to the nominee's insistence that two never discussed business dealings with Ukraine. There are concerns about the authenticity and how this hard drive makes it to the FBI. But as we look into that, two social media giants are hitting pause on the potential viral story until fact checkers weigh in, and that's creating its own uproar. We'll look into that as well. But we begin with the confirmation hearings for U.S. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. She took questions today concerning whether a president could legally pardon himself and whether her involvement in the disputed election of 2000 disqualifies her to rule on a similar matter should it occur this year. But much of the inquiry had harsh political overtones. Fox News chief legal correspondent, anchor of Fox News,
and repeating 2016 claims in that state and in other key battleground states that, from what we're seeing on the ground and our reporting, may not play as well right now. Democrats say many measurable signs show that some voters are now on to the con. Take a local paper in the key state of Pennsylvania, noting that Trump is just recycling his 2016 jobs message, which...
Let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. He's at the site of the president's rally tonight in Iowa. Jim, it turns out the coronavirus hit the first family in a way we didn't know until now.
That's right, Wolf. The First Lady said earlier this afternoon that Barrett Trump, the president's youngest son, did test positive for the coronavirus in recent weeks. The good news is that Barrett did not feel any symptoms and has since tested negative. And the president was asked about Barrett testing positive for the coronavirus, and he said to reporters earlier this afternoon that Barrett is doing just fine. In the meantime, the president will be here in Iowa at the Des Moines airport just a short while for now for this rally later on this evening. But as we've seen at other rallies, we're seeing it again here tonight. Trump supporters filing into this space, not wearing masks, not practicing social distancing. But as one Trump supporter told us earlier this afternoon, if I get sick and die, I guess it's my turn.
Slumping in the polls with 20 days to the election, President Trump is sounding more detached from reality, arguing that many Americans can go back to their pre-pandemic lives even as coronavirus cases are soaring across the U.S.
We must allow lower-risk Americans to resume normal activity.
The president is boasting about the large crowds at his recently resumed rallies, despite warnings from health experts that they are potential super spreaders.
We're having lines of people, 30, 40, 50,000 people lining up to see a speech with 1 day notice. And my opponent is getting 22 people with working very hard to get him.
Recovering from his own bout with the virus, Mr. Trump is claiming without evidence that people who've had COVID-19 are now immune from catching it again, when scientists warn that may not be the case.
To everyone fighting to recover from the virus, I feel your pain because I felt your pain. And we will beat this virus together. And for those, who has had it? Who has had it here? Who's had it? Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of people. Well, you're the people I want to say hello to because you're right now immune. You're right now immune, or they say that.
Even as some in his own party worry the president's medical misinformation may be alienating elderly voters, Mr. Trump is suggesting Democrat Joe Biden should be in a nursing home. Another key demographic turned off by the president, suburban women, a problem Mr. Trump tried to address in Pennsylvania.
Suburban women, will you please like me? Remember? Please. Please. I saved your damn neighborhood, okay?
With this week's debate scrapped, the president and Biden will be holding dueling town halls on Thursday night. Top administration health experts, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, have reviewed Mr. Trump's latest test results, with the National Institutes of Health saying in a statement they affirm that all current evidence indicates that the president is not infectious for anyone else. The president will go into that town hall without a key talking point, as federal prosecutors have concluded an investigation into some of the origins of the Russia probe without bringing any charges, blowing a hole in Mr. Trump's accusations against the Obama administration.
We caught him. And by the way, that's Biden, that's Obama. They spied on my campaign. It's never happened before. It's treason.
As for the president's latest rally in Iowa, where Democrats have rented out a Trump COVID super spreader event billboard near the venue's site, supporters say they're not worried about catching the virus.
I'm not worried. I figured the sooner we all get it, the sooner we'll be done with it.
And you don't think that could lead to a lot of people, dying perhaps from the virus?
I think the numbers are vastly inflated.
If I'm going to get sick and die, I guess it's my turn. But I trust God and I'm not scared.
But if you don't put yourself at risk, you might not die.
I put myself at risk every time I go to the grocery store, I go to McDonald's, I go to work, I do anything.
Now, the president's rally here in Des Moines, plus his upcoming schedule, are all indications that he faces an uphill battle in his fight for re-election. The president later on this week will be North Carolina, and yes, Georgia. That's right, Georgia, a state that should safely be in the Trump column by now. And Wolf, getting back to this rally that we're at right now, we should point out that there are very few people practicing social distancing, very few people wearing masks. But I want to point out one thing. Behind the podium where the president will speak later on this evening, the campaign has been very strategic about this, having those supporters wear MAGA masks to give the impression to people tuning in from home that people at these rallies are in fact wearing masks, when in fact that is a very small minority of the people who come to these rallies.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Jim Acosta on the scene for us in Iowa at this rally. Thank you very much. I just want to point out that the First Lady also described her conditions suffering from coronavirus. Let me put it up on the screen in her written statement what she said. She said, I was very fortunate as my diagnosis came with minimal symptoms, though they hit me all at once and it seemed to be a roller coaster of symptoms. And then she added this, I experienced body aches, a cough and headaches, and felt extremely tired most of the time. That statement from Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States. We're glad she's much better, and their son Barrett is much better. He's fine too. Very good news. The president obviously is fine as well right now. Let's get to the state of the pandemic here in the United States and the alarming indicators we're now seeing across the country. Brian Todd is joining us. He's putting it all together for us. Brian, we just heard an update from Dr. Anthony Fauci on the timeline for a COVID vaccine. What did we learn?
Right, well, this just in from Dr. Fauci a short time ago. He said a COVID-19 vaccine could be widely available to the public by April of next year, and that researchers should know by next month or December whether some vaccine trials have a safe candidate. But this comes as we see some disturbing trends tonight in new infections and in hospitalizations. A new field hospital opens in Wisconsin today as the state sets records for deaths in a day. It comes as we get the starkest indication yet of a brutal start to the fall. 36 states trending upward in new coronavirus cases tonight. No states are trending down in new cases. And for the first time in 2 months, America averaging more than 50,000 new cases each day.
We've got a lot of activities that are resuming. We've got sports all over the place with people in stadiums again. We have a lot of people getting back to work. We have schools open. We have people having kind of quarantine fatigue and trying to get back to some semblance of their normal life, having gatherings.
And there are new warnings about those gatherings. The White House Coronavirus Task Force and the CDC saying they're seeing an increased threat of virus spread from small household gatherings, where precautions often are not taken.
Particularly with Thanksgiving coming up, we think it's really important to stress the vigilance of these continued mitigation steps in the household setting.
Tony Green knows that threat too well. He held a small family gathering in Texas in June. From that event, he says, 14 people became infected and 2 of his relatives died.
I feel like a drunk driver that killed his family.
In 2 hard-hit areas, local leaders are cracking down. Oklahoma City, seeing a rise in hospitalizations, is extending its mask ordinance until December 7th. New Mexico's governor saying her state is approaching a point where the spread of the virus will be, quote, uncontrollable, announces several new restrictions. Bars and restaurants serving alcohol have to close at 10 p.m., gatherings limited to 5 people. In New York City, the mayor says while some hotspots have leveled off, the city is always at the threshold of getting back into trouble.
We're threatened with a full-blown second wave in New York City. If that happens, the entire city would have to go back to the restrictions we knew in March and April.
New York's governor expressing frustration with a Sweet 16 party at this inn on Long Island last month, which spawned nearly 40 new cases. Citing pop-up clusters like that, he offers a sobering projection for the country.
This is not going away anytime soon. I think best case scenario, we're looking at another year by the time, even if everything works out well.
And we have this just in from the University of Alabama, the school announcing that head football coach Nick Saban has tested positive for coronavirus. Saban issuing a statement himself saying that at the moment he has no symptoms. Nick Saban is 68 years old, we should note. The school also saying that athletic director Greg Byrne has also tested positive for coronavirus. Both Saban and Greg Byrne are now isolating at home. Assistant coach, actually the offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, taking over preparation duties for Alabama this coming week while the coach is at home. Wolf.
Very disturbing. We wish him obviously a very, very speedy recovery. Brian Todd reporting. Thanks very much.
Southeast, you notice maybe a heavier shower there between Wall and Phillip. Now, as that moves through your area, you can expect another quick hit with these strong winds as that shower or thunder shower moves overhead. Phillips are at 56 degrees right now. We have 54 in Pierre, 61 Sioux Falls.
In voter, you compare the voter rolls, what was it, the Pew voter validations to now. Trump's basically stable. He's made some small gains with Hispanics. Biden is overperforming. He's doing terribly well, particularly with seniors.
Stable or stable genius?
I wouldn't get. I'm referring very narrowly to some polling data there, not to anything about the candidate. But
years ago to lead the whole damn world in a way that no one else can. For months, Biden has favored virtual or small socially distanced events while calling out large Trump rallies.
So reckless.
COVID-19 cases have been linked to multiple Trump events, and now a Biden event as well. At least one COVID-19 case has reportedly been traced to a stop Biden made at the end of last month in Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. It's good to be back.
Judge Barrett.
As Biden's running mate Kamala Harris attends Supreme Court confirmation hearings, Biden says Amy Coney Barrett shouldn't be confirmed, but that she, quote, seems like a decent person. And despite Biden's big lead over Trump in the polls,
well, you know, I'm one of those superstitious guys. It ain't over till it's over.
it's a day closer to being over, but Biden is not in a battleground state. Instead, he's here at home in Delaware. He is going to deliver pre-taped remarks to a Muslims Making Change event this evening. And of course, he did attend that virtual fundraiser with 37 donors. Brett?
Peter Ducey in Wilmington. Peter, thanks. President Trump is once again spending the dinner hour on the road tonight, making a campaign stop in Des Moines, Iowa. He's scheduled to be
other healthcare providers to get you the best care possible.
Your punishment he will spare.
And wife, you have so many options. There are so many things that you could be doing besides going through the first conference.
See cases, then you see hospitalizations, and then tragically you see the increase in deaths.
Yeah, we certainly see all that. You know, Dr. Friednes, some White House advisors are reportedly pushing this idea of what's called herd immunity. You've just signed on to a report condemning it. Why do you and so many other experts reject this approach, herd immunity? Explain what this is.
The concept really comes from vaccines. When you vaccinate enough people, the disease stops spreading. And that might be 60%, 80%, 90% for different diseases. So the hope is if you can get the vaccine up that high, then the last 10, 20% of people are protected by the 70, 80% who've gotten immune. There's a small group of people with zero scientific data who are saying, oh, let's just let it rip in society. Let young people get it. In fact, Scott Atlas said it's a positive thing. It's a good thing if young people get this, because then they'll protect the rest of us. That's just fundamentally not how it works. That misses the basic point that we're all connected. And any infection anywhere is potentially a threat somewhere else, because even if you feel fine and get over it with no problems, no long-term consequences, you might spread it to someone who dies from it. And that's what we're seeing all over the country. The fundamental error of that herd immunity concept is this concept where we can protect the vulnerable. Well, they're all among us. We're all connected. It's not just people in nursing homes. That's not where most of the older people live. And about a quarter to a third of adults have some form of underlying condition. So there's no way to protect the vulnerable without protecting all of us.
Yeah, Dr. Scott Atlas, one of the recently added White House medical advisors on this, who's spoken about herd immunity over the years. Dr. Frieden, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
All right, just ahead.
Government to try to ensure his continued hold on power. And as you talk about voters not being deterred here, for some key pillars of the government that the president might use to try to subvert the election and stay in power, we are seeing some contingency plans come into view. And I mean, specifically, there's a legal group now that includes former heads of the American Bar Association that is telling Justice Department personnel they will defend and support them if they whistleblow or resign or refuse orders on election interference as prosecutors and Justice Department officials. Experts in military law are also offering free counsel to service members who question the legality of Trump's orders regarding using the use of the military against protests or related to the election. These contingency plans from within the profession, within the legal profession, within the military law expert profession, trying to backstop people who may be asked to do very undemocratic things by a president who has an authoritarian cast when it approaches this election. Have there been those kinds of contingency plan discussions within the campaign? I know that you've said that there will be a peaceful transfer of power and that the best way that we can assure that is for there to be an overwhelming vote against this president. But are you working on those kind of contingency plans in the case of a worst case scenario?
We are, but I also, to your point, I have faith in the American people and in our democracy. And there's no question, Rachel, that many of us believe that Donald Trump has been a threat to our democracy and the integrity of our democratic institutions. I don't think there's any question about that. Not to mention his complicity with foreign actors trying to interfere in our election in 2020 as they did in 2016. But I will say this. Our democracy is always going to be as strong as the American people's willingness to fight for our democracy. And so it is strong if you look at what people are doing as we speak. Again, standing in line, prepared to engage in litigation if necessary, but registering people to vote, talking with their friends and neighbors about what's at stake. We have always had to fight to get closer to the ideals that we hold dear. And part of that has been, over the course of our history, to fight for the integrity of our elections. And what I am seeing every day in this election, and I've seen for a long time, is the American people are willing to fight for the integrity of our electoral process, in spite of those that might attempt to discredit or tamper with it. And ultimately, I think we prevail when we don't let anybody mess with our vote, and we stand firm in knowing that our vote has meaning and it has purpose and actually can determine an outcome of an election.
Senator Harris, we're going to take a quick break here if you don't mind. I have a lot more to ask you about, including about the confirmation battle over Amy Barrett as a potential Supreme Court justice. If you'd stick with us, we'll be right back in just a moment.
Yeah.
Senator Kamala Harris, California Democratic Vice Presidential nominee, is our guest tonight. We'll be right back.
Doesn't look like this anymore.
Hannity is brought to you by Alka-Seltzer Plus for fast cold relief.
And then wind up getting long haul symptoms.
Seltzer Plus Severe Power Fast Fizz dissolves quickly, instantly ready to start working. So fast.
They don't have a lot of good answers yet to make it better, but hopefully you don't have to deal with it. But if you do, just be aware. Now, the second problem is what she says doesn't add up. She wants to encourage other people to be healthy. Start with your husband. Okay? Start at home with the Be Better. All right, these maskless displays, these super spreader events, it's how you got sick. That's how your kid got sick, and that's how your husband is making other people sick. And if you're going to speak up, then you've got to speak out.
Thank you all very much.
And you should start with him. And there's no indication that that happens. He's holding these mass rallies, and you know it's wrong. So why does she say it? But more importantly, why does he do it? We didn't elect her. I want to bring in someone who knows personally where his mind takes him and his motivations. His niece, Mary Trump, author of Too Much and Never Enough. And just as much as the niece, she's a highly trained psychologist. And that's a nice combination to have in understanding anybody's family, let alone this one. Mary, it's good to have you once again.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be here.
So the normal mind says, well, listen, if I want to lead these people, I can't be not telling them to do the right things and then having them do the wrong things just because I want to feel good about myself. He comes to a different conclusion even after having COVID because?
First of all, we can't apply logic or rational thought to anything Donald does. That's not going to get us any answers. Secondly, when I learned that he was ill, I was worried that he would get a mild case and or recover quickly, not because I thought he needed to be sicker, but I think it would have been better if he hadn't gotten sick at all, because this way, this worst case scenario would allow him to emerge triumphant against this virus because he's such a tough guy. And he would then go on to tell other people that they don't need to worry about it, they don't need to be dominated by it, they don't need to be afraid of it. And interestingly, Melania kind of echoed this in saying that luckily Barron is a strong teenager. First of all, I am inexpressibly relieved that my cousin is okay. But let's be honest, he was put into a dangerous situation by his parents who have not been taking adequate precautions. And secondly, children are dying from this very deadly virus. So the only thing I can say really about how Donald is handling this is in order for him to course correct when he realized that his initial way of dealing with it wasn't working, would have been to admit that he was wrong. So we needed to double down by saying it wasn't that big a deal and it was just going to go away. And we see the results of that, and it's pretty devastating.
Is it odd that he didn't mention that his son had it? I mean, ordinarily parents worry more about their kids, you know, and it's not like he's been that private about his personal life. Is there anything to that for you?
Yeah, unfortunately in my family, and this started with my grandfather, illness of any kind, whether it was a physical ailment or an addiction, was seen as weakness. And being weak, certainly in terms of, as my grandfather understood it, was unacceptable. So Donald, one, he doesn't want to be associated with COVID at all, even if it's somebody else having it. So there's no way that he would admit willingly that anybody in his family had it. And I continue to believe that if he had been asymptomatic, we probably would never have known that he had tested positive for it either.
Mm. It's just interesting to hear how he said it. Beck?
You have asked me a series of questions that are completely uncontroversial, like whether COVID-19 is infectious, whether smoking causes cancer, and then trying to analogize that to eliciting an opinion on me that is a very contentious matter, opinion from me that is on a very contentious matter of public debate. And I will not do that. I will not express a view on a matter of public policy, especially one that is politically controversial, because that's inconsistent with the judicial role, as I have explained.
Thank you, Judge Barrett, and you've made your point clear that you believe it's a debatable point.
Back with us once again is Senator Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee for Vice President. She, of course, is on the Judiciary Committee. She questioned the President's Supreme Court nominee today. Senator Harris, thank you again for being with us. Because of what Supreme Court nomination hearings are like now, it is not categorically a surprise that Judge Barrett is refusing to answer questions about how she might rule on cases affecting abortion rights or the Affordable Care Act or climate. But I have to say it has been surprising to me as a lay observer to see her reluctant to answer questions about black letter law. She has refused to say whether the Constitution allows the president to postpone the election. It clearly doesn't. Whether voter intimidation is illegal, it clearly is. What is your read on what's going on there?
Rachel, I think that that she and the Senate, the Republican leaders of the Senate have probably decided that they've got the votes, and she doesn't have to answer questions. I think that It is the fact that she can't admit what Justice Roberts admitted, which is that voter discrimination exists. Justice Roberts could talk about that. Justice Roberts, who is the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, Republican appointed, I think has created a standard that she should actually admire, which is being candid with the American people about just certain facts and not debatable facts. These are facts. But that's not what we got from this nominee. And the tragedy of it all is that this has been, I think, a process that has violated what the American people want and what they should expect, which is that when we are in the midst of an election, which will be over in 20 days, it started, it's going to be over in 20 days, 14 million Americans, Rachel, have voted. And that they are ramming through this nominee while the American people are voting on who will be their next president is unconscionable. Joe and I have been very clear. Let the American people decide who will fill that seat in the White House and then fill the seat in the United States Supreme Court. Anything less than that is really contrary to, I think, the best principles about what we do in a democracy.
Dr. Klobuchar, all these questions, you're suggesting that I have animus or that I cut a deal with the president, and I was very clear yesterday that that isn't what happened.
Now, I'm just getting at how closely you would ally yourself with Justice Scalia's jurisprudence. Would you agree with Justice Scalia that Justice Ginsburg's decision in VMI was wrong?
I've already said, and I hope that you aren't suggesting that I don't have my own mind or that I couldn't think independently or that I would just decide, let me see what Justice Scalia has said about this in the past, because I assure you I have my own mind.
Do you accept that COVID-19 is infectious? Do you accept that smoking causes cancer?
Senator, again, I was wondering where you were going with that. You have asked me a series of questions that are completely uncontroversial, like whether COVID-19 is infectious, whether smoking causes cancer, and then trying to analogize that to eliciting an opinion on me that is a very contentious matter, opinion from me that is on a very contentious matter of public debate, and I will not do that.
I mean, where do these questions come from? Here with reaction. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham. All right, Senator, I don't know, I give you a lot of credit. You have the patience of Job dealing with this. I was beyond impressed, amazingly unflappable, no notes as we all watched these answers. I mean, Brown versus Board of Education, Plessy Ferguson. I mean, she is rolling through one landmark Supreme Court case after another. And I saw the vitriol and the anger that they had in the Kavanaugh hearings, but they didn't have that one track to go down, it seems.
Well, number one, this hearing was far different than Kavanaugh. She's one of the most qualified people to ever be nominated to the Supreme Court in the history of the court. She was unflappable. Amy Barrett is an amazing human being, wide and deep knowledge of the law, judicial temperament that you would hope for in any judge anywhere, impeccable character. They couldn't lay a glove on her in terms of qualification. There was a lot of feeble attempts to kind of marginalize her. None of the blows landed. I'm very proud of Judge Amy Barrett. She's headed to the Supreme Court, and let me tell you why this is important. To every conservative young woman out there wondering if there's a place for you at the table in the Supreme Court, you dare be pro-life, you dare embrace your religion. Amy Barrett has broken a ceiling, and you're going to be the beneficiary of this. She's going to the court. She deserves to go to the court, and I was very proud of the committee, the way it conducted itself.
All right, let me ask you, Senator, let's talk about the process. Democrats want to slow this down. You have, sure, her testimony is now done. The Senate will do its job in committee first. Democrats have pledged to delay as much as they can. What do you expect, and when will there be a final vote in the U.S. Senate?
I expect one hell of a fight tomorrow to try to stop me and my colleagues from voting her out of committee. What I'm going to do tomorrow is move the nomination for October the 22nd, set a time certain so that we'll vote her out of committee October the 22nd. Then Mitch can take her to the floor. I think she'll be voted on a week before the election, but they will try everything they can to stop this nomination in committee. it will fail. I appreciate my Democratic colleagues not going down the Kavanaugh road with Judge Barrett. She was challenged, she was tested, she passed with flying colors. But all I can say is that Democrats are putting a lot of pressure. The base is putting a lot of pressure on Democratic senators to stop this. They're raising money like crazy. I've had Amy Barrett's back. I need you to have mine. My opponent outraised me 2-1. LindseyGraham.com. By midnight, the final filings for this election cycle are in. Help me if you can. But here's what I want to tell you, viewers. We've come this far. We're not going to let Amy down. We're going to get her across the line, and our committee is ready to act tomorrow.
But they've been attacking all of you that are up for re-election. I mean, they're attacking unfairly Martha McSally, Joni Ernst they're attacking, Cory Gardner they're attacking, Mitch McConnell they've been attacking, Perdue in Georgia they've been attacking, Tillis in North Carolina they've been attacking. You know, Democrats are claiming Joe Biden got $383 million. There is a hatred that I've never seen in all the years I've been doing this towards Donald Trump. Why do you think it is this bad?
One, they've never recognized that he is the President of the United States. They tried to delegitimize his presidency. They've tried everything they can to destroy his presidency. It is not working. They hate my guts because I stood up for Kavanaugh when they tried to destroy that man's life. And the unpardonable sin in politics has helped Donald Trump. My opponent has raised $57 million, the most in the Senate, in the history of the United States Senate, because they want to take me out. LindseyGraham.com, help me close the gap. To all people listening on this show, you've been very generous to us all, but help every Republican.
Barbara Streisand is trying to get you thrown out of South Carolina, and so I guess Rosie O'Donnell too, right?
Yeah, you know, I got to midnight, let's pour it on, let's show them that South Carolina's not for sale. But let me say this, Sean, this is a big historic moment for the young conservative women of the world. There is a place for you. Amy Barrett's going on to court. Don't be ashamed of being pro-life. Embrace your faith. Embrace traditional family values. There's a place for you. We're making history. Thank you, President Trump, for nominating Judge Amy Barrett, one of the most qualified people in the history of the country. Thank you, President Trump.
You know, and I feel sorry for her and her family, what they put her through the last 3 days, but you ran a great proceed.
They bring in these nominees who are unwilling to agree that Brown v. Board of Education is precedent. It's crazy. And, I mean, you know, to use a term. So there is one thing we can do among the many things. Well, let's not stop protesting. Let's not stop being active. Let's not stop speaking up and shouting when necessary. And let's vote. And let's vote, guys. Let's vote.
Senator, I have one last question for you, and it is along these same lines. There has been a lot of talk from the right that there is an anti-Catholic bias against Judge Amy Coney Barrett, even though I think she would be the 6th Catholic on the court out of 9 if she is confirmed. And although, despite the fact that her faith hasn't been a matter of discussion during the confirmation process from Democratic senators whatsoever, I'm struck by that criticism from the right. At the same time, President Trump and other Republicans supporting him, including speakers at the Republican convention, have routinely and aggressively questioned Joe Biden's faith. The president accusing Joe Biden of being against God and Vice President Biden being called Catholic in name only. I wonder if you have talked to the vice president about those attacks on his faith, and if you know how he feels about them and how you two handle that as part of the campaign.
Listen, I'm a person of faith. Joe Biden is a person of faith. And the one thing I will say, you know, I talk to Joe all the time. First of all, I love Joe Biden. He's such a good person. And he's an incredible leader. And he is so deep of faith and an incredible optimist in the midst of all that we are seeing. And, you know, I'm going to say, I think it's hurtful to Joe, to be honest. He goes to Mass every Sunday. For him, his faith is a part of him. I think many people, contrary to what the president and these political people are trying to play, are very excited about the fact that we have the potential to elect the second practicing Catholic ever to be president of the United States. And you know, I think that Joe feels the way most people do, which is that their relationship with God and their relationship with their faith is something that cannot be tarnished by other people's perceptions of who they are. And I think Joe's very strong that way.
Senator, I know I said that was the last question, but I lied, right? Right before we had that discussion about God, which is a very bad way to do it. But I just realized that I would kick myself if I didn't just ask you, before I let you go, if you noticed the fly on Vice President Pence's head at the time during the debate, or if that was something that only we could see it at home. Could you see it sitting next to him? Did you have feelings about, like, did you have the instinct to?
You know, Rachel, I think that it's important that we kind of find a way, all of us, to move on and, you know, kind of fly away from this subject onto something else. Yeah.
Senator Harris, you are very kind, and let's just spare a thought right now for the people who have to write closed captions for this portion of the interview, and for those who have to transcribe it, because they're going to have no idea how to convey what we just communicated. Senator Harris, thank you so much for taking this much time. I know it's an exhausting time, incredibly important time for our country and for history. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much for all that you do. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Let's do this.
Regards to my personal relationship with Melania over 15 years. I think that they've opened a Pandora's box in reference to this contract. And so there's a lot still to be discovered. But it's so unfortunate that this is, again, law and order, again, according to Donald Trump, which is actually a racist term, is something that he should not be doing right now.
Why aren't you concerned about legal exposure? You did sign documents when you decided to volunteer and help out and be an advisor. Why do you feel that you didn't breach any contract?
So here's the thing. When I worked starting November 8th for Melania and the Presidential Inauguration Committee, I signed an NDA for the Presidential Inauguration Committee. I didn't sign an NDA with Melania from November 8th, 2016 until August 22nd, 2017. And in that time period, a lot of what is in the book is what's exposed. Now, in addition to that, the things that I did talk about, I worked with a First Amendment lawyer and a pre-publishing lawyer very carefully to make sure that I wasn't breaking any of my confidentiality agreements, which ended, by the way, Chris, when my contract was terminated, when I was severed from the White House. So in addition to that, the lawsuit has so many claims in it that are false, that weren't covered by the NDA. So we'll see what happens.
We'll be watching it.
But I'm coming full speed ahead.
I hear you, and as I promised from the beginning, when I start a story, I don't stop covering it until it's over. You will have opportunities here to discuss it every step along the way. You deserve that, because certainly the Trumps will have a big platform to make their own case. Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Be well. All right.
Thank you.
Now, this is heavy, okay? This is not joking around. This is not left and right.
That these town...
We know what bin Laden meant to this country. We know how much pain there was, how much fear, and how much hurt. And we know how hard it was to get him, and how many men and women put their lives on the line and bled for that. Imagine being part of that raid, putting your life on the line, seeing your brothers do the same, and then seeing the president decides to circulate a conspiracy theory that you're BS, that the raid was a hoax, it was a body double. Retired Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill, hero by any definition, is here. He knows the reality, and he knows that we know the reality. But I want to talk to him about what this means to him and the men who put their lives on the line and are right now for us and our freedom. Next.
First
sleep.
Questions to Joe Biden and get Joe Biden to admit the fact that he's been lying about this cover-up, about not talking about these business dealings that Hunter's having with Ukraine and with China. Those are the serious questions that need to be asked. I just don't. I don't believe that the media is capable of doing that.
Court packing, D.C. statehood, ending the Electoral College, amnesty. I can't think of any moment in the campaign, Tammy, that he's been asked any of these questions.
No, it's a classic example of groupthink. This is a dynamic that is very cult-like, where it's not just that you don't ask questions, but you protect the target. You make sure that the target's not asked questions, is not challenged. And then what you see is what you saw with Nancy Pelosi, where when somebody might step out of line a little bit and ask a question about why are you holding hostage the stimulus money from the American people, then there's this panic because they're not used to having to answer questions. And now one has to wonder, why would Wolf Blitzer actually step out of line for a moment when he really doesn't? And I think it's because they recognize, they saw the poll perhaps that you noted, that Trump in fact is not being blamed. You know, they're willing to throw the Americans into their volcano if they think that Donald Trump's going to be blamed for it. They don't care the real impact on the American people. But when they see that it might not be working as planned, maybe Wolf Blitzer was actually trying to do the Democrats a favor and jar her out of this state that she's in. Because the bottom line is also the way that the Congress is viewed, their approval rating far below Donald Trump. So Americans don't trust her naturally. They're not trusting Congress in general. But when President Trump has spoken and when he has promised something, he's come through. So he needs to remind people that this is Pelosi's fault. It's the Democrats playing politics and holding hostage their relief for something which are the lockdowns that the Democrats have also been perpetuating. It's the worst of everything you can imagine that the Democrats have brought to the table. Groupthink and holding money hostage, using us like footballs, and throwing us into volcanoes. We are a speed bump in their vision. And of course, we have a chance to change that in November, and I hope we do.
The most radical agenda of any major political party in history, and a guy that is obviously, he doesn't have the strength, the stamina, not even the mental alertness to be the president. Pretty frightening scenario. Thank you both. When we come back, Kayleigh McEnany on Joe Biden's outrageous campaign strategy and Twitter temporarily locking out her account. She'll tell us all about it as we continue.
I'm so excited to be in a theater. You were laughing out loud, literally.
Aluminum foil, all for just 90 cents each, only at Hy-Vee.
Your home is the address of your memories. It's always looking after you. But your home needs looking after too. Trust.
And the Democrats to take the Senate and also to take the House and have all three houses before you even get to that question. And I thought her answer to that, it seemed to me that was essentially what she was saying. I thought she did it in a pretty deft way compared to this sort of weird game we've been playing, with the campaign reporters and Biden.
I agree. And I feel like, that everybody keeps asking Biden and Harris the same question, and the right is having all this concern trolling over whether or not they're going to violate norms, right? Well, the other option is Donald Trump. But is this one of those situations?
Source.
The commander-in-chief is attacking the heroism of the men and women that he leads. This conspiracy theory garbage that he decided to retweet is not me showing you. Why? Because the facts are not in doubt. Osama bin Laden was killed May 1st, 2011 by U.S. Special Forces in an early morning raid in Abbottabad, Pakistan. One person who knows firsthand is someone who was there, former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill. Senior Chief, welcome to Primetime. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me, Chris. It's great to be on your show.
Please understand, sir, I do not have you here to question the events of that night or the planning that led up to it. But let the American people know the sacrifice, that mission could have gone sideways easy and almost did. What is the reality about what the men who protect us made sure happened that night?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that every man that was on that mission, to include the aircrew and the pilots, are all alive. We all went in there, we all kissed our kids goodbye expecting death because of what happened on 9/11, and we were willing to do it. And then just right now to see it being these conspiracy theories thrown around due to politics, it's almost like it's an insult to real people who, because they bring in another event from part of our brothers at SEAL Team 6, they were Gold Squadron that were shot down in August. But just by doing this stuff on the internet and making such light of something like this, you're really trampling on graves of some of the best heroes I've ever personally worked with. And it's just a shame that we've gotten there because politics.
Is it okay that you have to take one for the president to help him make the case that you really can't trust anything these days, you can just trust me? Even that SEAL team stuff with bin Laden, who knows if that happened?
Well, I mean, the thing is, he can go over to the CIA anytime where there's a file cabinet with a picture of bin Laden's head, and my hands are in the picture. And then we took a bunch of pictures of him, not only in his own bedroom, but also in Jalalabad, the first place we stopped when we crossed the border and realized we were going to live. And then when we took him up to Bagram, so that the three letter agencies, the people smarter than me, could do all the DNA tests. And that's what took so long for us to confirm it that night, because President Obama was waiting for the confirmation of how many people were left in the house. And for people to say that, we flew on the way back, we realized the DNA was wrong, we flew him into the mountains. Or, speaking of conspiracies, my favorite is someone decided that Hillary Clinton sent some missiles through Qatar to shoot down SEAL Team 6 to keep us quiet. If there was a conspiracy with a body double, then they would have shot us down as we were flying out. They didn't even, none of the guys that were killed were on the bin Laden raid. And just the way that it spins politically, and then for Twitter of all places. I mean, I personally like to use Twitter for entertainment a lot. This is not the time for it.
By the way, what you put out was funny. Osama bin Johnson, funny. It was funny, and you get to joke about it. Absolutely, you are a hero. You put yourself out there, and you did something that a lot of people thought would never get done, especially the way they were hiding them. But the president knows the truth. This isn't about going over to the CIA. It's about a campaign where he wants people to feel confident that the only confidence they can have is in him. And everything else they think they know, they should doubt, even if it means making you guys look bad. And that's what he did, Chief. Left, right, that's reasonable.
A lot of people reached out to me today and they said, I hope you're doing okay. And I said, this is actually comical, because if you have the truth, you're going to be fine. And I've never lied about this mission once, but I start getting texts from guys on the bin Laden mission going, holy crap, I didn't know we were dead. What you doing there and all this stuff. I talked to a number of guys that were on the ground in Abbottabad that night. And again, with turning this political, this is a mission. It's been brought up before by the president, too, that there are other people like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi more important than bin Laden. 95% of the people couldn't pick out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in a lineup. Show anyone in the world a picture of Osama bin Laden, they know who he is.
Right.
And it was, just to make it political, if any time to release the photos is now.
Well, look, again, the truth isn't in dispute. You're no Biden fan. You believe this president has done good things, and that's your right to believe it. I'd never keep you off this show because of any political opinion you have. You're always welcome here because you're a hero. But do you want the president to know this is not something to play with? Leave you guys and the deeds that you do for this country and its democracy out of the politics.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. And I'll come back anytime. But it's one thing for a wacko to be a conspiracy theorist and claim he has all these NDAs, but just to get retweeted by the highest ranking person in the country. And again, maybe I'm a Biden fan, maybe I'm a Trump fan, but I tell everyone I'm an American. And this is an American thing. This is a worldwide thing. We lost people from more than 80 countries in the Twin Towers alone. And then we had the people on Flight 93, who the first Americans to fight Al-Qaeda, and what was so awesome about that is they took a vote. Mm-hmm. We're going to vote to fight, and they won, and they saved lives in the Capitol where votes are taken. So there's a lot more American and just our entire Western ideology here, and I think it's bigger than retweet.
Well, Chief Rob O'Neill, The president often watches, and he's almost always told about what's on the show. I hope he hears and knows that some things have to be kept clean. And what you guys do for us and keeping us free and going after the people who want to take our freedom has to be appreciated, and it is certainly appreciated here and always will be. Sir, thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
God bless and be well. All right. Nothing's sacred. When nothing's sacred, things get scary fast.
It hurts the side of the aisle that Silicon Valley prefers. It's sad, it's censorship. This is not America.
Yeah, well, you know, the double standard is very clear. When the president in the debate with Joe Biden brought up the First Lady of Moscow and the $3.5 million payment, we had Senator Ron Johnson on earlier, and he confirmed, yeah, that all happened. Just like the Russian oligarchs, the Kazakh oligarchs, the Russian nationals, Kazakh nationals, Ukrainian nationals, Chinese nationals, and all of these monies together. I mean, this is the Biden family business while he is vice president. Imagine if the last name was Trump. How do you think the mob and the media would be acting?
Oh, it'd be all over Twitter. Everyone would be reporting it. It'd be the top news story. It'd be the top trend on Twitter because there's one standard for Trump and another standard for anything on the other side of the aisle. But it's breathtaking that for years, really, for at least more than a year, Joe Biden told us, I had nothing to do with Hunter's business dealings. And today we get an email that says, Hunter introduced a Ukrainian oligarch to his father, Joe Biden, and that email is censored, blacklisted, erased from Twitter and Facebook, and anyone who mentions it is banned from the public platform.
All right, thanks, Kelly. We wish you continued good health and a quick recovery, as we wish everybody. We'll continue.
Go by nearly 10 points. He looks to be very much in danger of losing it next month. Polls in the last month have had the race between Trump and Biden in Iowa at anywhere from a tie to a Biden lead of 5 points. And it's not just the presidential race that Republicans are at risk of losing in Iowa. Incumbent Republican U.S. Senator Joni Ernst has been trailing her Democratic challenger, Teresa Greenfield, in every poll in Iowa for the last month. Senator Ernst has been consistently down 2 or 3 or even 5 points to Greenfield. Republicans cannot afford to lose Ernst's Senate seat if they want to hold on to the Senate, but it looks like Teresa Greenfield is poised to take it away from her. So it's Iowa tonight for the president's COVID superspreader rally. Tomorrow the president will be in North Carolina, as will Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris on the Democratic side, as she just told us. Tomorrow is the first day of early voting in North Carolina. That state is absolutely on the table in terms of the presidential race. Biden has maintained a narrow lead in just about every poll in North Carolina in the last month. But the news is even worse for the incumbent Republican U.S. Senator who's trying to hold on to his seat in North Carolina. That's Republican Senator Thom Tillis. He's been consistently down in the polls recently by a larger margin than Joni Ernst has been in Iowa. Even in polls taken after Tillis's Democratic opponent admitted sending untoward text messages to a woman who was not his wife, Thom Tillis appears to be losing to Cal Cunningham, if anything, by an even greater margin now. So that's the situation in North Carolina, where early voting starts tomorrow, in case you're wondering why both President Trump and Senator Harris are going to be there tomorrow. We got 20 days to go. 20 days. Jeez, 20 days to go. More to come tonight. Stay with us.
What if I sleep?
And my shoes.
Lovely. Look, could you let me go on my speech once more? I'd like to make sure I've got the thing pat. Distinguished members of the Supreme Court, Mr. Governor. What'd you say?
I didn't say anything.
Well, there's some. Distinguished members of the Supreme Court, Mr. Governor, You said it again.
I didn't say it. The trunk said it.
The trunk? Please, did you put...
No, it was his idea.
What are we going to do? We can't keep him in a hotel. Arnold, get out of there. Get out from under. Arnold.